We'd like you to help plan the news for 1973.
Come again?
Plan the news for 1973. 1973. We've only roughed out the news for 1973. Nothing's been given the go-ahead yet, but this is the kind of thing we have in mind.
Today, April 14th, 1973. First historic pictures by Radstar of the combined U.S.-Russian landing on the moon. Shown here are Majors Webb and Mikhailovich taking their first steps into the unknown, firing their retro rockets to land their spacecraft on the dust-covered surface.
I can't show you any film on this next model. We haven't photographed it yet. But this is the way it will sound.
June the 22nd, 1973. The State Department releases film of the ultimate weapon, codenamed Icarus. This satellite is equipped with a solid reactor. In layman's terms, it can freeze air solid, stopping all missiles, killing all forms of life. Icarus orbits at the same speed as the Earth, can hang in position over every major city that threatens the peace-loving nations.
Rather proud of this one.
September the 5th, 1973. The new phase in global warfare. War by example. At 4:32 our time, China took out the remote Indian border village of Bandar, unprotected by the Icarus network. After the first 2 5-megaton H-bombs have fallen, the 9-way hotline finally...
Switch it off.
But
This is going to happen in 1973. You're going to make this happen?
No. We're going to make models much cheaper. Then we photograph the models.
Fake newsreels.
That's fake newsreels. For the past 10 years, people have been looking at our fake newsreels and listening to our fake commentaries.
And they accept it for the truth. And you can do it. Stop 100 people in the street. How many of them have actually seen a missile or a satellite? They're just told they exist and they believe it.
Yes, you're getting there. I knew you would.
Well, now, the moon rocket and the satellite, that you can get away with. That's too remote for people to grasp. It's too far away. But this... I mean, you invented this village on the Indo-Chinese border.
Oh, yes.
Well, somebody could check up.
Very mountainous territory up there. There'll be no survivors in 1973. No rescue work. Radiation scare.
Yes. You can do it. This could be the news for 1973.
I've only shown you the hard news. There are other things, much softer things we thought might interest you.
Well?
1973, we thought it might be time for an anti-teenage movement. A long-awaited return to maturity. Perhaps even a religious revival.
In Vietnam, hundreds of people are being killed every week. Well, you can't do that with your models.
No. And you can't cure people of bad habits in 2 generations. They like to carry rifles. They like to put lines on maps. And we let them because we control the situation. There's no danger of world war. Just a simple choice for everybody. Capitalism or communism. Strawberry or vanilla. We control all the crises. We build them up and we shut them down.
Just who the hell are you?
It's obvious, isn't it? Just a very few of the top people in communications in every major country in the world. 99.386% of the population wouldn't believe this conversation. And the rest are working for us.
Hey, Inspire Tribe, my fellow freedom lovers, it's John Nolan here. Thank you so much for tuning in. It is Wednesday, July 31st, 2024. We're healthy, we're wealthy, we're whole, we're free. That's the mantra of the Inspired Livestream. Thank you so much for joining us everywhere, X, Rumble, YouTube, and of course in a live chat. I see so many familiar names. Ronnie, it's good to see you, my friend. Ronnie is, such a beautiful voice for truth. does so much in this field, and also always reminds everybody to like and share and subscribe. Thank you so much, Ronnie. You're such a blessing. And everyone else, David is here, Lee is here, good to see you, Sammy. Then we see Seraph M, good to see you, John Spencer, Aki, Stuart K, how's it going, brother? Also I've seen up there JPB, good to see you, Charlotte, Jim, Reese, Big Gas. Then we have Michelle here, good to see you, my friend, Jonathan, Raymond, hey there. Who else is here? Sid and Kitty is here, Dawn is here. Thank you for the contribution, by the way. And of course, my wife is in a live chat with you all. Christine is here. Thank you, Charlotte. Really, really appreciate it. Alrighty, my friends. As always, I will preface this by, and we'll get deeper into this by saying, at no point should fear be part of this equation and discovery and information distribution. That's not what we're about. No fear porn, none of that. However, burying our head in the sand and pretending that things aren't moving faster and faster in the world around us, that in this reality, things are shifting so quickly and more chaos is being unleashed on the people, simply isn't a feasible solution. There are much better ones that are actually actionable. So the premise is still, and I know you've been hearing this for a while, it's going to get worse before it gets better. And that's not something that, I made up. It's simply when you know what's at work, when you know where it's supposed to go, and when you know that how these entities operate, then that is not hard to figure out. It is persuasion wherever it's possible, right? They want to persuade people into all these changes. They want to persuade people to go through this transformation into a full-on AI-controlled dystopia. So they use persuasion where they can, but they use chaos when it's necessary as well, warfare or whatever does the trick. And this is, when you go back through the 20th century and the 21st century, they're signaling this and they're putting this out in books. They're saying if the people don't want to follow our guidance on certain things, then we will simply create a crisis, right? And now we are in a multifaceted crisis that is basically playing out worldwide, and they're just pushing buttons every day. Breaking news, bomb here, attack there, health scare here, financial scare there, currency, weather, climate, you name it. I mean, there are so many emergencies happening all at once, and it is a design thing. And the idea is to break you, to break your strength, to break your spirit, to break your resolve, and to finally make you see that there is only one way forward. That is the goal. We've talked at length where they want to take the world. We've also shown at length how much this vision has been weakened, how this period that we're in right now is a huge risk, and at some point you have to take that risk, right? They had to take that risk because at some point you can't hide your true intentions. At some point you have to start selling them to the people. So they just create crisis after crisis after crisis, and they will keep on going. They still have enough power to do that. However, and here's the really important thing: we have to maintain our balance in what we do, what we pay attention to, and how we distribute information. Now, a lot of you have been saying that we need to not pay any attention to what's going on, and we need to not talk about it, and that's simply not who we are and why we're here. But there's a reason for it. You underestimate, probably, if you're one of those people, just who is watching. You underestimate maybe that the lines are blurred between what is perceived to be this system and what is perceived to be the people, that there are a lot of people in the system that are watching, that are listening, that are having the same experiences as you are. And all of these ideas, all of these visions, the 2030 vision, the 15-minute city vision, the complete control grid vision, all of this cannot happen without human participation. So they can't implement these systems fully or roll them out fully or bring them to completion unless there's human participation. So people, I mean, as much as, technology is taken over and AI is taken over, people are still very much required to do many things. And if people are not willing to, because they see what's actually going on, and we played this intro, news benders. I actually encourage you to go to your search engine and just search for news benders 1968. This aired on BBC in 1968. And it was probably one of the most eye-opening things that probably 1968, not many people could wrap their minds around being really possible. I assume, and they thought, well, it's kind of entertainment. It has a little bit of truth in it, but of course, we're realizing that they were projecting, a lot of truth, but they weren't showing the full picture. They were just showing a part of this picture, and a part of this picture is that in order to control people, you have to keep them in certain emotional states. And that's what they didn't really say. They hinted at it, but they didn't really say it. So all of that, which is unfolding in the world right now, is about keeping people in a certain emotional state, right? And because the more people become informed or awaken, or the more competition that there is for their attention, the stronger those emotional states have to become. And this is clinically analyzed, psychologically analyzed. They have studied human psyche. They have studied human behavior for a very, very long time. So they know exactly what they're doing. And so if we can put all of that which is unfolding in the world in proper context and perspective, we actually remain in power of our emotional state, which is the key element, right? So it's going to get much worse. I mean, there are so many cards left to play, right? And they will play them. You have to remember this. This entire system is not owned by the people. It's not owned by you and me. We didn't come up with this kind of system. The systems that we came up with in the past were much, much, much simpler, and they were actually serving the people. They were localized. They were making a lot of sense on that level because wherever people live together, they're organized in some way. But these systems, complex, worldwide, interconnected, and so easy to destabilize, right? These systems were not created by us, and they were not created for us. So these systems are not really in our hand. However, it requires our hands to operate a lot of this system. This is what I said earlier. Don't underestimate the power that we truly hold. So what they're going to continue throwing at us is going to be more and more and more demoralizing, destabilizing, fear-driven events that are horrific. We see what's happening with the expansion of the Israel-Hamas war. We see that Ukraine-Russia is far from solved, and that is something that can be expanded at any second. There's a great possibility it will bleed into the rest of Europe, and that's what they've been preparing. So the key element is to realize that when things happen that are outside of our control, we need to stay calm, really calm before we react, and not give in to this sort of impulse to emotionally engage. And I understand, don't get me wrong, when there's human suffering involved, when there's all of that involved, we are empathetic. We feel with our brothers and sisters, and so it is all but natural to react. But you have to realize that that's what they count on. They count on you losing your shit. They count on you getting panicked. As a matter of fact, there's an entire manual, okay? So if you break down the manual, and the military has them, intelligence community has them, and organizations that mostly you never hear about that drive a lot of what's going on in the world, they are following a certain script and a manual now more than ever, okay? Because we're in a destabilization phase. We were going through sort of this normal push and pull before 2020. It was a normal push and pull situation. They would keep just enough chaos in the world happening for people to never fully relax, but also not too much because they did not want destabilization yet. we're now in a destabilization phase. This phase, starting with 2020, is all about destabilization, demoralization. That's what this is in. And they're stretching it out because they know when you go at it and you go at it, eventually people break if they're not strong enough. So here's the good thing before we go into their strategy. People are very strong. As a matter of fact, I keep saying this. If you want to find proof how powerful you are, look at everything that they're throwing at you every single day from every direction, and how strong you're still standing, how strong your spirit is, how strong your resolve is. That is proof. So let's look into their tactics. And this is derived from documents, by the way, that are available that you and anyone else can actually read. So how to control people. Certain emotional states are strategically cultivated to maintain control over a population, leveraging psychological and emotional manipulation to achieve compliance and minimize resistance. So basically, you have to look at it this way. There are entities and people who do nothing but sit together and look at what is our desired outcome. How do we want to transform the world? What do we want to turn it into? And then they go, okay, so we have potentially, if the numbers are correct, what do we know, right? But if the numbers are correct, we have potentially 8 billion resistors, 8 billion people who might resist us. Now, they know there's a certain section of the population that will always follow whatever the mainstream guidance is. So they don't worry about them. The rest, the potential rebels, those are the ones that they focus on, right? And so they have operations in place 24/7 in this world that are simply aimed at putting people into certain emotional states. One of them, the biggest one, of course, is fear. Fear is a powerful motivator that can lead individuals to comply with authority, to avoid perceived threats or punishments. Inducing fear through threats, propaganda, and demonstrating consequences for noncompliance can significantly impact behavior. So this was sort of difficult for people to grasp on a large scale until 2020 happened. And 2020 combined all these things in a very compressed form, very visible for everyone who was paying attention. And also, it was happening worldwide at the same time. So this made people see that there is a concerted effort. Let's look at this again. Fear, to motivate people so they comply with authority, to avoid perceived threats or punishments. Inducing fear through threats, propaganda, and demonstrating consequences for noncompliance can significantly impact behavior. What have they done? As a matter of the German, within the German government, there's just been a huge leak that's come out on how the German government, through all of its agencies, has manipulated the German population, which is, by the way, directly applicable to every other nation. I mean, almost everyone fell in line. So this is not a byproduct. Think about it this way. A lot of people think that fear is simply a byproduct of certain information. No. If fear is what you want to induce or what you want to provoke in people, what you want them to experience while they're watching something, then that is the guiding thing. Okay, so what's going to do that in people? How they are psychologically very, very, very sophisticated. Know very, very little about human spirit, though. Very little. That's the antidote. Always has been. So then we go into uncertainty. Creating a sense of uncertainty and confusion can make individuals more likely to seek guidance and direction from perceived authority figures. Misinformation, conflicting reports, and a lack of clear information can keep people in a state of ambiguity, making them easier to control. And this is also very important, that we are sort of under the impression, a lot of people still are, that the mainstream simply always wants to drive one narrative and they want everyone to believe in that one narrative. No. They want to create a state of uncertainty where you are constantly guessing, and you need to stay on the pulse so that you know what's happening. And like, again, I'll bring this example over and over again. Who doesn't remember Dr. Fauci coming on every week and giving contradicting information. He contradicted himself, he contradicted his previous guidelines, and he was saying to people, one week you should do this, and the next week he said do the opposite. And he was saying it with the same kind of authority, with the same kind of certainty. But what did it create in people? Confusion, uncertainty, not knowing where to look. So they were looking here, they were looking there. This is a strategy. It's not by mistake. It's not because new information has come out. This is a playbook, a script, right? Just like in scripture, it's a script. So one of the things that is so important, and this is a life skill, isn't it? This isn't just about this time. You have to embrace uncertainty, because certainty is a program that we are trying to develop to cope with the fact that there's very little to be certain about, especially in this system. There's much more certainty, by the way, in what we perceive to be the natural world. Out there, it's much clearer. You know, the surprises are just what we don't know about it, but they're really not surprises once we're familiar with it. Nature is much more predictable in many ways and gives us a certain sense of certainty that within this human society and construct is impossible to find by design. Okay? Uncertainty, a very powerful tool to control people. Dependency. I mean, not that we haven't talked about it, but cultivating a state of dependency ensures that individuals rely on the controlling authority for their needs and survival. Economic manipulation, control of essential resources, and restricting access to services can create a dependent population that is more compliant. Again, I'll just say this, 2020, it's exactly what happened, but it's also happening on a systemic level where this idea that, technology is becoming so sophisticated and omnipotent and it's doing everything. So people won't be needed much longer for work. So we'll just have universal basic income. The government will give us our digital tokens and to take care of our healthcare stuff and everything else. All we have to do is comply with what they demand in return, right? Which is, of course, the ultimate dependency. But even now, so many people are completely depending on the system without realizing it, right? And we all to a certain degree do. Thank you, KC. Really appreciate your support. But the dependency that when your basic life needs are only met if the system functions, and the system is now in such a centralized and controlled way that by the push of one button, it stops, right? You used to have at least a sense of more variety and more decentralization. You had, grocery stores had multiple suppliers. Those suppliers were independent. They were small businesses. They were working on their own. Today, you have all these supply chains, highly centralized, huge conglomerates that run these supply chains and that are basically working in hand with whatever the governments want them to do. So it's easy to shut it off. It's easy to control. And the more that you are dependent on what the system does and how it provides food for you and how it provides your necessities for you, the easier you are to control in a state of emergency. So dependency is one of their main tactics. Fear, uncertainty, dependency. What else? We have 2 more to go. And it's really eye-opening how easy this is actually. Helplessness. Promoting a sense of helplessness or powerlessness can discourage resistance and foster acceptance of control measures. Overwhelming individuals with insurmountable challenges or demonstrating the futility of opposition can reinforce this emotional state. So this is, for example, to steer away from 2020 and that whole C-19 thing. Let's look at the rhetoric around climate. This is a war on the mind, right? And you remember when the now King Charles, the monarch of the UK, in his infinite wisdom said that he calls for a military-style campaign. What did he say? A military-style campaign. He didn't say that part. but he didn't say against the people, but that's what he was insinuating. He said we need a military style campaign to combat climate change. And this military style campaign is in full rollout. It is creating a consistent state of fear and panic where every event in the world, and we all know the weather manipulation, I mean, on insane levels, right? Go and listen to Dane Wigington, geoengineeringwatch.org, and others, by the way, who'll tell you that you know, whatever natural weather patterns we had at some point, natural, they don't exist any longer. So now, every event, too much snow, too little snow, too hot, too cold, too wet, not wet enough, whatever happens, it's a direct result of human-caused climate change. That is the message. You have a ticking clock that tells us we have just a few more years, and if we don't meet certain goals that can only be met by certain behaviors, then it is game over. Of course, those behaviors are only required of you and I. They're not required of the people that need to fly their private jets around in order to lecture us on what we need to do, because for them, Zoom doesn't work. For them, video calls are not feasible. They need to fly their private jets, the John Kerrys, the Bill Gateses and whatnot. They need to fly them everywhere to lecture people in person about how they shouldn't drive their cars to work. So they can fly their jets to other places. And then they buy carbon offset certificates. You can't make that shit up. This is how crazy this is. But helplessness is the state where people feel like they don't have what it takes to overcome any challenge. And mostly, the biggest problem is that they believe that the challenges that they're being presented with are actually real, when most crises in history have been orchestrated. How often did we have an energy crisis, oil crisis of the 1980s? We're going to run out of oil. Since then, China, India, and God knows how many countries have emerged as huge, huge, huge consumers of oil. The number of vehicles has risen greatly. The number of people has risen greatly, but we don't have an oil crisis right now. We don't have a shortage right now. It was just there in the 80s, right? Fossil fuels. So a state of helplessness that makes you think wherever you turn, there are huge challenges that we can't overcome. What do? You feel small, you feel powerless, you feel like you don't matter, that whatever you do is never enough, that whatever you think is never enough, that whatever you are is never enough. That is the whole game. It's not true, but that's how they play it. What else do they use? Mistrust. Eroding trust in alternative sources of information or support can consolidate control by making the authority appear as the only reliable entity. Discrediting dissenting voices, spreading rumors, and fostering paranoia can isolate individuals and reduce their ability to organize or resist. And by the way, I'll tell you this is taken straight from the manuals. This is taken straight from the military manuals, but they will always say, oh, this is what we use. This is what we use on a authoritarian country where there's a dictator that we need to remove in order to bring democracy and freedom to those people. So these are the tactics that we use, when in fact they use it everywhere and all people. But there is, if you look at the legislation of the last few years, the EU is on the forefront, along with Australia, New Zealand, but the EU is on the forefront. Of course, America, Canada are doing pretty much the same thing, where they are censoring a lot of things on social media, internet, video platforms. They're simply not allowing them because those video platforms do not comply with their requests. And they're also saying that who is the arbiter of truth? Almost every government now has something like a truth agency, right? So the government makes itself the arbiter of truth, right? And it says we have the sole authority to determine what reality is. That's literally what they're saying. This is not me making this up. Go read it. This is what they're saying. We have the authority to determine what reality is. And what we say is reality. So, how do you do that in a bigger way? Well, you don't just try to discredit alternative sources of information, you take them over. You run them. You control them, maybe subtly, maybe subconsciously, maybe without even those alternative sources realizing they're being controlled. In many ways, that's the best kind. But you make sure that they stay in their lane. And that is easy to do. Trust me. If you are not on your toes, if you are not in touch with spirit, if you have something that you are that basically if unhealed traumas, if you have any kind of problems, if you are not at your very best, it's not so hard to manipulate you. And I could go through a name of people that I see have very, very big standing in the alternative media community that are absolutely towing the party line, and they don't know it, or at least it seems like they don't know it. But that's what they're doing. So these are tactics: mistrust, dependency, helplessness, fear, uncertainty. These are the 5 top emotional states that they want people to be in. So if you know that, and if you think to yourself, well, how many times have I reacted this way to something? How many times have I been caught up in those emotions? And then you ask yourself, were they real? Is this really me? Is this really what reflects my world, my life, my everything? Because, and this is where we get into greater solution energy. The greatest solution is that people see through it and stop believing it. Belief is an incredibly powerful thing. It doesn't mean that we can believe something with all our might. That doesn't make it true. It just means we pretend it's true. And why do we do that? Because it gives us a sense of certainty. So I've been saying we have to embrace uncertainty. We're living in uncertain times, so uncertainty has to become our friend. It has to become an ally. And we have to realize that we have the ability, the resilience, the power to rise and shine through uncertainty. I say this because I've lived through great periods of uncertainty in my life where nothing was certain. We didn't have anything to rely on, and we were running on the knowing that we can recreate that, and we can do something else, and we can create something different, that we have the ability to change our own reality bubble. And this is, just imagine that millions of people really focus on that and realize, okay, I do not influence directly reality at large, directly the experience of the collective, but I can greatly change my own experience, hence enrich everyone around me through that. And if millions of people do that, we together make up a new collective experience. That's what this moment is about. This moment is really about what is the strongest energy, and can we amplify that to a degree that people at least stop participating in their own enslavement to a significant degree. Because all of this requires cooperation. I'll say this again. The trick book is long. They have lots of plays left. And they have lots of means to create those plays. They can literally unleash currently unrest in almost all places because they've created the conditions, and the people have not have allowed them to create this condition. So you have nations that are so divided because so many strangers have come into those nations way too fast and under false pretenses, and they were brought in to have certain effects, and at any moment they can ignite that. You just saw it in the UK, which is sort of I think currently on the verge. It could be a huge explosion happening any day now in the UK, an explosion, emotional explosion, I mean. And You see this. France is a prime example of how the French have operated with this principle for a very long time. They're kind of experts at riots and inciting all this violence on the streets. The Germans are a little bit different in mentality. They're not as hot-headed. They're more analytical, but there is enough potential division to ignite all of it. The only thing that can rise above is human spirit. That's the only thing. There is no other solution. There is no so this party will lead people to a different. No. That might be a symptom of human spirit, that there is a group and whatever organization that actually helps people in a significant way. But no leader currently, no political party can do this. It is about human spirit rising above it. It's about finding unity where there's seemingly only division. And it's mainly about your own inner state. It's about who you really are, not who you want to be, not who you think you should be, but who you actually are. This is the age of authenticity. So there's no way around it. There's no pretending. There's no faking it till you make it. None of this works. You have to authentically live in your purpose, whatever that is. That is the solution to make it through what is ahead of us. And by the way, what is fearlessness? Because that's what you need. You need absolute courage and no fear. What is fearlessness? To transcend the false belief in death. That's what it is. You have to transcend this false belief in death. Death does not exist as such. An end of this avatar, yes, that does exist. But even that is a transformation into something else. But there is an end to this experience in this avatar. Yes, I agree with that. And then the experience changes. But that's it. There is no death. So if that is internalized and realized and embodied, what in the world could possibly control you? What in the world could possibly happen to make you pretend that now all of a sudden death does exist and an end to everything does exist? Fearlessness. There is no way with fear. With fear, you will fall in line. With fear, you will submit. You will acquiesce. You will do whatever they want you to do. Without fear, you're on a path to freedom. This is where we stand. This is what this moment asks of us. And this is what we actually created together. But I want to make one thing sure. While you are observing this world, what you see will get worse. What you see will get worse. You will see the dark, satanic, demonic expression of things. The veil is thinning. The dimensional veil is thinning. So you will potentially see and hear things that you couldn't imagine possible. You just thought are in the movies. We're seeing to a certain degree the zombification of people, which is just another way of saying that what has been induced and what is being induced is possessing them and is taking them over. And these entities from other realms, demonic entities, dark entities that cannot incarnate, can very much influence people that are unaware, people that have created certain conditions in their life, people that are in certain emotional states or are using certain substances or have been traumatized or have allowed things into their being that they shouldn't have. So all of this is happening. We can't stop it from happening. It's something we're going to go through. So if we have this awareness, if we have this knowing, then our full focus must be on centeredness and balance. You must be the calm in the storm, really the calm in the storm. And while everyone is losing their shit, you're not. While everyone is panicking, you're not. You realize what's really going on here. The good thing is, so many of you have experienced this individually in your lives. You've already gone through the challenges. You've already been on the edge of the cliff. So you know what kind of strength you have. But there's another thing too. Don't just focus on survival. Don't just focus on making it through. Use every moment, every day, every second to improve, to become the best possible version. And like I always say, do what you can with what you have where you are. Don't wait until certain conditions are met. Don't say, when I finally get that check or that money, I can do it. No, just do what you can. Not what you can't do. Do what you can do with what you have right now where you are. Baby steps. But take one step every day that's going to improve you, that your future self will thank you for, that improves your life in one way, makes you healthier, makes you more balanced, makes you more in sync, makes you more happy. Do those things, and you have the potential to thrive while chaos unfolds around you. There are plenty of examples, no matter the crisis, where people have thrived. If you think that you're of any value or benefit or help to others by going down going down into despair and hopelessness and fear with them, that feeling with them helps them. No, it just pulls one more person down there. Nobody is helped by us being sad with someone else, being afraid with someone else, being angry with someone else. Nobody's helped through that. Nobody whatsoever. So don't buy that. You have the ability to create and manipulate and change your reality, your experience. Every day you have that. In that way, you can very much change the matrix around you. And like I said, millions of us do this, and we are doing it, by the way. Millions of us do this, and we will see how good it can get. So the name of the game is to become the best possible version of you while the world is experiencing some of the worst shit that you possibly can see. Yep. I'm sorry, but this is it. This is what it is. I'm not saying it's easy or pleasant. I'm not saying this is what I want, but I'm not burying my head in sand. Neither should you. Neither should you, because there are people watching. There are people watching you. There are people, and for some of you, you're maybe more visible, maybe more out there. There are people watching, and they're wondering, how will such and such react? What will they do? I'm going to just see what they do, and then that's going to tell me where I should go. So let's be freaking lighthouses all over the place. Lighthouses everywhere. Everywhere. And by the way, we are introducing the best of the best support systems right now that we have found. What I mean by that is the best, nutritional supplements, for example. That's one of the things that Christine and I has changed our experience greatly, because it is so challenging, and we have this conversation with the best people that have done nothing but permaculture gardening for the last 30 years, or the best people that have done nothing but study human physiology. And one of the things that we hear over and over again is it is currently almost impossible to get all your nutrients from just food, especially if you buy your food in a grocery store. So we're looking for ways to help people support themselves and support their immune system and their health. That's a big one for us. But it starts with really, really important, something that you can do absolutely free of charge: breath work and prayer/meditation. And I would encourage you to find that which supports you the best. But those are two things that make the biggest difference of all, and then the rest is fine tuning. These are also the greatest health supporters. Most people don't have enough oxygen in their body. So it's shallow breathing, which we were trained to do because we weren't taught how to breathe. Shallow breathing, literally, it deprives you of so much oxygen that you need. So to learn how to breathe properly, people like Wim Hof, that's what they've been teaching people. That's all that they do. That's one of the things you can do right now after we log off. You go to his YouTube channel, Wim Hof, and you just start and you do it every day. I mean, this is a key point, right? Which is basically the gateway into a meditative state, proper breath work into a meditative or prayer state. And we will continue to introduce some of the most beautiful, powerful, and high vibing things that we found. Another thing that I encourage you, and you can do that right now if you haven't yet, doesn't cost you a thing, is to give FLFE a trial, Focused Life Force Energy. This has been I will find the link. Give me one moment. I will find the link and put it in the live chat. But the link is always below this. It's always in the video description. In every single video. This has been the greatest support system. We've been on the FLFE service for a year now, and boy, have things really improved. Focused Life Force Energy is a high consciousness field that is created. I can find the link right now. I don't want to focus on this message, but it is in the video description, and we'll post it later. It's a high consciousness field. So if you study Dr. David Hawkins, who has studied consciousness, written those books like Power versus Force, right? Those paradigm shifting books. Dr. David Hawkins has created this scale, this map of consciousness from 0 being the lowest and 1,000 being the highest level of consciousness, LOC. And so basically, really putting into scientific terms, and for our minds versus a more maybe spiritual Eastern oriented mind, explaining that everything is and has consciousness, and that we have individual consciousness, that places have consciousness. You guys know this. Maybe you've been to a pilgrimage site. Maybe you've been to Machu Picchu. Maybe you've been to Sedona, or there are so many smaller places that are locally known. People climb a certain mountain, or they go to a cave, or they go to a lake, or they go to a spring, and these are high. There are some extremely potent high consciousness fields there. Churches are built oftentimes on ley line crossings, which are high consciousness fields. So there are so many places in the world where people go to experience that, and where people go into certain places to have out of body experiences, right? Crop circles are known to be to a large degree high consciousness fields. So these are all over the place, and people can benefit by being in those places and greatly enhance their experience, their health, whatever. People go to Lourdes to have to drink the holy water and to have this experience. So what these amazing people, Clayton and Jeffrey, founders of FLFE, have developed and discovered, because this is what they do. Thank you so much, Motive. No. What is it? Molitvi, for your contribution. Really appreciate it. What they have discovered is that through requests to divinity, and this is what they call it. So they've studied and created these incredible programs that are amplified by a quantum technology. So no AI, no nothing. This is not invasive, but that they can basically amplify requests to divinity and create high consciousness field and maintain them, let's say around your home, around you. And they have, basically they are servicing the world with this. And a small part of their work is their business. So 10% of everything they do is business, 90% is service. So the business allows them to do the service. And they have this amazing FLFE service. So on the scale of consciousness, they have discovered that the optimum level of consciousness that they can put a property on to have the greatest effect on most people is just around or above 550 on the consciousness map, which is unconditional love. That is what that means. And we've experienced this over and over and over again when we go places, because it's been on our home. But when we go places and have meetings or vacation, whatever, and we ask them to put the service on that place, that everybody who comes in that place, there's just more harmony, there's more well-being, there's greater connection, there's EMF mitigation to a high degree. There is easier forgiveness. There are business success is one that we've heard now so often from people who are on the field. Multiple ones that are, for example, business owners that have doubled and tripled their successes. And, you know, so there are incredible benefits to this. And all I would say is go and check it out. Go give it a try. You don't need a credit card. There's no accidental subscriptions. They don't do that. They give you a 15-day, no strings attached free trial. You go to link the description and you do it. There are no strings attached. There's nothing. If you don't want it after that, it's all good. And then you can make a choice and see. And many people have made the choice to keep it because they just see and feel the benefits. Me as an anti-tech guy, which I've said over and over again, I love what they do. This has nothing to do with AI. There's nothing beamed on your property, or this is a quantum technology. It works with quantum entanglement. And there are no downloads. There are no devices that you need to buy. None of that. So that's what I would encourage everyone to give a try if you haven't yet. As I said, costs you nothing to give it a try. And it's an incredible support system. I think it's one of the most important services in the world today. So these are all things that we encourage people to use if they can, optimize certain things. But all of this is only support for your inner state of being, which is the most important thing in the world. There's nothing more important. Nothing. But who you are on a vibrational, on a frequency level. Who you are is everything. I can't say this often enough. Who you are is everything. It determines everything. If you are in a high vibrational state of being, if you expand your consciousness and your awareness, if you become the best possible version of yourself, there is nothing in the entire universe that can stop that from happening. It might try to, it might want to, but it cannot if you don't allow it. So if I have one message, that the antidote to all this madness is inside of you, has always been there. That the antidote to all the craziness in the world is a rising of consciousness and expansion, of realizing who you really are. That is it. That is home. That is truth. That is love. That is unity. That is everything. So all of these other things, they simply help us realize that over and over and over again until we know it on the deepest level. That transforms everything. And this is what we're here for, all together, all of us. You think we came randomly here? You think we didn't know each other? You'd be surprised how well we knew each other. You'd be surprised how well we know each other. And you'd be surprised that we are everywhere. We're in all places. We're in big corporations. We're on the board of directors. We are in governments. We are even in secret societies. Remember, that's what we came here for. This is a plan. This is the real plan. This is the real one. We all know each other. And we're remembering that. All right, my friends. Thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you for being with us. We love you. We appreciate you. And we will be back with you again very, very soon. And right now, you could be only a few clicks away from experiencing something amazing, something that has changed thousands of lives all over the world. I'm talking about a high consciousness field similar to those at pilgrimage sites and sacred places. It's where people go to heal, to connect, and to become the best possible version of themselves. With FLFE, you can bring such a high consciousness field into your home right now. It's a spiritual quantum technology based on the work of Nikola Tesla. Better sleep, more energy, greater well-being, improved finances, electrosmog mitigation. These are only some of the things people on the FLFE service are experiencing. Try it now for 15 days completely free of charge, no credit card needed. Just click on a link down below to start your free, no strings attached FLFE trial right now.